AITA for not wanting anything to do with my brother even after he tried to delete himself. My brother Kevin and I haven't talked or seen each other in 5 years. I don't talk with our parents or anyone else in the family very often. I found out that my girlfriend of 3 years was having an affair with Kevin when I was 22 and he was 25. I broke up with her, moved back in with my parents, and told them about the affair. After a month of rejecting Kevin's attempts to reach out to me and being cold when he came around to apologize, my parents told me it was time to forgive him. They even held a meeting with my ex-boyfriend Kevin and his family to try to convince me to forgive them, especially Kevin. This only made me feel worse. I told him that what they had done was wrong, especially since Kevin was my brother. I looked up to him and would have done anything for him. We were very close, but he let me down in the worst way. A few months later, I had the chance to leave them behind, so I did. Kevin and my dad and I lost touch. I've been in touch with a cousin for the last few months because my grandma has been sick. Her health got worse, so I went back to see her in the hospital. On my way out, I ran into Kevin, which was a bad thing. He wanted to talk to me, but I claimed I didn't know him. Then he started crying and said he was sorry and wanted to be friends. I told him that he must have been thinking I was someone else, and I left. Then, later, my cousin called me to tell me that Kevin had a very bad mental break because of what had happened. So far as I can tell, his mental health has gotten a lot worse since I stopped talking to him. Then, my parents called and begged me to go see Kevin, saying that just being there for him would help him feel better. They made my cousin feel like she had to give them my number. I told them that I wouldn't do it. Mom started crying and said she wanted her family back and for her kids to get back together. I told her that Kevin, her, and her dad had ruined it and that I no longer cared about them. Then, my dad asked if we all sat down, talked, and said sorry for hurting each other, things could go back to how they were before. I told you I didn't want to talk, and I've done nothing wrong. The next day, my dad called and I could tell he was crying. He said Kevin tried to take a lot of pills. They must have told Kevin what I said, and that was the last straw for him. He is now in the hospital because my parents found him in time. People think that if I get back together with him, it will help his mental health, but I don't want to. I don't think it's fair to blame me for how his mind is. I don't know how I could help him when all I feel when I think about him is anger, hurt, and betrayal. Even though he is my brother, I don't want to have anything to do with him. So, am I a jerk for not wanting to talk to my brother? Before I moved away, when my parents tried to get me to talk to my brother, I told them I wanted some space from him. They didn't listen, and they kept setting up meetings for us to talk. When I told them I needed time alone, they made it clear they wouldn't leave me alone, always in my way and talking to me. Even when I told him to stop, my brother kept trying to get me to talk to him. I told him I needed time to think before we talked, but he wouldn't stop bothering me, which made things worse. When I moved away, my folks kept asking me when I would come back, when I would fix things, and when things would get back to normal. When I told them to stop bothering me and let me think about whether or not I wanted to talk to my brother, they didn't listen. I went no contact because they were always telling me what to do and I couldn't find peace or think straight. Not what would be best for me right then. At first, I did miss them, but now they're back to what they used to do. They apologized, but said they couldn't help it. They loved each other and were meant to be together. They were trying to tell me something but didn't know how. That they loved me and would never do anything to hurt me, but I had to understand them. All it came down to was that they loved each other for a long time and couldn't hold it in any longer. They basically kept saying the same things over and over again, but in different ways. I'm not sure if they were dating at the time of the rescue, but it's possible. They dated for a year after I moved away, but they broke up because my grandparents and other family members put them through hell. People at the intervention told me why I should forgive Kevin and my ex, especially Kevin. It was all Kevin's and my ex's reasons. Kevin's only statements were "I'm sorry," but Kevin always had an explanation, and he never seemed sorry. He seemed like he just wanted to be done with it, as if it were a small thing. After I broke up with her, they went out on a date for a year. I found out because I had to use her laptop, and her texts are linked to her laptop. The message was from my brother, which I thought was strange because they didn't talk much. So I chose to check the messages and saw that there were texts, pictures, and videos. First of all, a lot of people told me I should thank Kevin for saving me from my ex-girlfriend, which is terrible because Kevin is my brother and not just some random guy. No, I don't want Kevin to die. I just don't want to be friends with him. I was going to ask my ex out. My brother already knew it. He knew how much I cared about her, so no, I'm not at all grateful to him. I still talk a lot about my extended family, especially my grandparents. I also go to therapy. Kevin didn't actually try to kill himself, but he did have a very bad mental break, which is why my parents took him to the hospital. My parents told me he tried to kill himself so I would go see him. They thought I could help him, so they told me. Kevin is fine now, but he will be closely watched because he is suicidal. I don't know if my parents are giving him the help he needs or just keeping him at home. This is something my Uncle Ray told me. After their plan didn't work, my mom ran crying to him and told him everything, so he called me after he found out. Then I called my parents and told them there was no way we could get back together. Not only did they lie about what happened to Kevin, but they also used him as a pawn, which hurt him more than anything else. They are mentally ill and need help. They tried to explain that all they wanted was to get back together as a family, but they didn't realize Kevin and I used to be close. I told them that would never happen, especially because of what they did, and that Kevin didn't need me. He needed help from a professional. My dad then yelled at me and said that as his brother, it was my job to help him. That no matter what, I have to be there for him. That Kevin loves me but made a mistake for which he shouldn't be punished. That my mom started agreeing with my dad that it was time for me to come home so we could all be happy again. I told them I was done and they should never call me again. They called me for days and days, but then they stopped. My grandma is home again after being in the hospital. The calls stopped because of her. I didn't tell her what was going on because I didn't want her to be worried. But Ray told her. Ray says that when he told her what was going on, she told him to take her to his parents' house and beat them up so badly that they all started crying, especially his dad since it was his parents. She told them they wouldn't be a part of this family anymore, even though they weren't really a part of it. She also went to see Kevin and told him that he needs professional help and that if he wants it, she'll help him get it. She also told him that she wouldn't totally cut him out of her life, but that he had to change a lot about himself before he could be a part of the family again. Grandmother is also upset with me because I didn't tell her what was going on. I was trying to explain it, but she hit me on the back of the head and told me it didn't matter, which made my grandpa laugh. They told me that they would make sure my parents couldn't reach me and that Kevin would get the help he needs to get better. I told them I appreciate them but that they shouldn't worry so much, especially since Grandma was getting out of the hospital. But a solid blow to the head stopped that. They told me that grandmothers should help their grandchildren, especially the ones who need it the most. Grandma went on to say that she knows Kevin has hurt people, but he really needs help, and I agreed. Grandpa then told him that they would help him and make sure that my parents were treating him well. They will also make sure that no one in the family gets in touch with me that I wouldn't want to. My grandma told me that I wouldn't want to be caught by her again if I tried to hide something from her. So Grandma can't tell you anything else. So that's it for now. Kevin should get the help he needs, and my parents are getting kicked in the behind by Grandma. I'm happy with how things turned out. I've been talking to more family and staying in touch with my grandparents more.